Stop everything. I've got 3 massive Leicester City stories for you. Listen to this. A transfer that isn't what it seems. Supporters making their voices loud about Martin. And a bombshell where Rowett absolutely slams the board. I'm passionate about Leicester, and I'll keep everyone up to date with the latest Foxes news. Every day, hit subscribe and join in. So picture this. Deadline day chaos. Phones ringing. Coffee going cold. Leicester City desperately hunting for something, anything, to spark a frontline that has looked blunt, predictable, and frankly toothless. And right at the death, in comes Dujuan Richards on loan from Chelsea, a young attacker, a Jamaica international, a name that, for a brief moment, made you sit up and think, maybe, just maybe, this is the one. Because let us be honest, you have been crying out for a proper finisher, someone to put real pressure on Jordan Ayew and Patson Daka, someone who smells goals, lives in the box, and gives the Foxes a different edge. So naturally, a lot of Leicester fans saw this move and thought, striker, finally. But here comes the twist, and it is a big one. Andy King has basically poured a bucket of cold water over that idea. Behind the scenes, Richards is not being viewed as a pure number 9, not a penalty box predator, not the savior up top. He is being lined up primarily as a right winger, a wide forward, a direct runner, someone to compete with Abdul Fatawu, not replace Ayew or Daka. That changes everything. Now, let me be clear. This kid is not some nobody. Nicknamed Whisper because he barely spoke as a youngster, he does his talking with his feet. At Chelsea's academy, he has built a reputation as explosive, fearless, and technically sharp. Strong frame, quick burst, happy to take people on. There is real talent. But talent alone does not fix the biggest problem Leicester City have, goals. And that is why this feels slightly, because what the Foxes actually needed, a striker who lives for ugly goals, tap-ins, rebounds, scrappy finishes in 6-yard boxes. Instead, we have brought in another wide option when the middle of the attack is still crying out for help. It does not mean Richards cannot surprise us. It does not mean he will not score important goals. Young players sometimes explode when given a chance, but expectations must be realistic. This is a developmental signing, a project, not a guarantee. And in a relegation fight, projects are a luxury. Once again, it feels like Leicester City have tried to be clever instead of being simple. Now let me ask you this. Do you believe Dujuan Richards can still become a decisive attacking weapon for the Foxes this season from the wing? Or has the club once again failed to address the real problem up front? Hit like, hit that subscribe button if you're passionate about Leicester and want to stay up to date. You know exactly what this one feels like. The club hierarchy keep flirting with the idea of Russell Martin because on paper, he ticks their favorite boxes. Possession-based football, brave build-up, playing out from the back no matter what. It is the type of philosophy certain people inside the building absolutely love. But let me tell you something straight. Football is not played on PowerPoint slides. It is played on grass, under pressure, with real consequences. And right now, the Foxes are fighting for their lives. City have looked at Martin before. That is not new. The style is familiar, the profile is familiar, and clearly, some decision makers still see him as a fit. But the reaction from the Leicester fan was already crystal clear, long before his Rangers disaster. You were there. You heard it. During a match last season, the message rang out loud and proud. He is not wanted. That was before he went north of the border and completely lost control at Rangers, before results nosedived, before performances became sterile, predictable, and easy to play against, before yet another dressing room started to look unconvinced by the gospel of endless sideways passes. And this is the bit that really winds me up. The Foxes do not need a philosophy project right now. We do not need someone telling us that losing 4-0 is acceptable as long as we had 65% of the ball. We need a manager who understands the championship is a war zone. Cold nights, ugly pitches, direct football, second balls, leaders, fighters, someone who can organize a defense first and ask questions later. If the club goes down the Russell Martin route, it feels like they have learned absolutely nothing from the last few years. Same mistakes, same stubborn obsession with aesthetics over same gamble while the house is already on fire. And let us be honest, if Rangers fans, who demand dominance every single week, ran out of patience with him, What makes anyone think Leicester City, in a relegation scrap, would magically be different? The Foxes deserve better than another experiment. Now I want to throw this straight to you. Would you accept Russell Martin as Leicester manager if it meant sticking rigidly to possession football, even if results suffer? Or would you rather see the Foxes appoint a pragmatic survival specialist and forget about philosophy completely? Hit like, hit that subscribe button if you're passionate about Leicester and want to stay up to date. Something very interesting has been bubbling away behind the scenes, and you need to hear this one properly. Over the weekend, whispers started flying around that Blackburn Rovers were desperately trying to rush through a deal for Gary Rowett. Before Leicester City could even get close, the narrative was simple. Beat the Foxes to the punch, steal a managerial target, and leave us scrambling yet again. But here is where it gets spicy. Rowett himself may have just ruled Leicester out, without actually saying the words. Instead of keeping things vague, careful, and diplomatic like most managers do when they fancy a job, Rowett went in with both feet on Leicester's situation, and not in a flattering way. He openly described Leicester City's collapse from Premier League champions to a championship relegation battle as very, very poor management. That is not the language of a man expecting a phone call from the King Power Stadium. That is the language of someone looking from the outside in. Someone who feels comfortable criticizing. Someone who does not sound like a candidate trying to impress an employer. And honestly, he is not wrong. For a club that lifted the Premier League trophy, conquered the FA Cup, and stood toe-to-toe with Europe's elite, to now be scrapping at the wrong end of the championship. It is embarrassing, painful, infuriating. But here is the key point for the Foxes fan. If Rowett truly believed he was in the frame, those comments never come out. Managers playing the waiting game keep their mouths shut. They do not call out ownership, recruitment, and direction publicly. So while Blackburn may still push ahead with their move, it increasingly feels like Leicester City are not pursuing Rowett in any serious way. And maybe that is no bad thing. Rowett is experienced, yes. He knows the championship, yes. But experience alone does not mean evolution. Leicester do not just need survival football. Leicester need identity, direction, a clear long-term vision, not just another safe pair of hands. Meanwhile, let us also take a second to laugh at the idea of Blackburn trying to beat Leicester to anyone. Bless them. Big talk for a club stuck in the same mud as us. So here is the big question. Would you have wanted Gary Rowett anywhere near the Leicester City job? Or should the Foxes be aiming much higher than that? Hit like, hit that subscribe button if you're passionate about Leicester and want to stay up to date.